over the weekend, on Friday, I should say, and over the weekend. Tua Tagovailoa, Miami Dolphins starting quarterback. Jordan Love, starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Both got massive contracts that put them up to the top five, and in Jordan Love's case, the most paid quarterback in the National Football League. Now, we've talked about paying quarterbacks, etc., in the last couple of offseasons. When it comes to Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, we've talked about it this past offseason with Dak Prescott. We know that when it comes to paying that premium position, the hardest position to play / find to be good at in sports, whoever is up next is just going to get the most dollar amount, right? We're not saying that Jordan Love is the best quarterback in football. We're not saying that, Justin Herbert is the top 3 quarterback in football. It's just when you got drafted, how good you are, depends on where you get paid. My issue for both of these guys, and I do think that this is sort of in the Dak Prescott conversation as well, which is very interesting, again, when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys conversations. I may be the only person still that believes this, but I cannot get out of my head the fact that Jordan Love, for the first half of last season, was an awful quarterback. He was below average, and on Halloween, after a loss, I believe it was the game that they lost that Kirk Cousins towards Achilles on when it was Minnesota at Green Bay. Matt LaFleur basically said, yeah, Jordan Love had a terrible game. We don't know what's wrong with him. And then Green Bay went to the bye, and post-bye week, the last, 8 or so games of the regular season, and then in the postseason at Dallas and at San Francisco, Jordan Love played amazing, and he was a top 3 to top 5 quarterback in the week. I don't know, because Green Bay is now going to get a harder schedule this year. They have a harder division, in my opinion. The Lions are going to be just as good. Minnesota's got weapons all over the place, and you guys know how I feel about Caleb Williams and the upgrades with DeAndre Swift and Roma Dunze and Keenan Allen in Chicago. I am just not a big believer in the Green Bay Packers. And I'm not saying that Jordan Love is a bad quarterback. I'm not saying that at all. I just don't know. A lot like Tua and a lot like Dak, if they are worth that money. And you can make the argument, same thing about Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Again, the problem is you can't afford to pay them the big bucks, but the market is telling you this is what they are worth. And if you don't pay them the big bucks, well, then you're going to be absolutely terrible. I could argue in the NFL, there is no worse place to be than paying a good quarterback great quarterback money, because then you're going to have to sacrifice on the defensive end, on receivers, potentially offensive line, and your team around you is not going to be as good. So you have to make sure that the guys like Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Dak, etc., that they can uplift the players around them significantly. And again, after only the back half of last season, I need to see Jordan Love, a lot like Brock Purdy in San Francisco, do it for a full season. I look at Green Bay's division, and I think, do they have the best quarterback? To me, the answer to that is no. I think Jordan Love is the 3rd best quarterback in that division behind Jared Goff and Caleb Williams. I think it is a downgrade that they went from Aaron Jones, who went to the division rival Vikings, replacing him with Josh Jacobs, who's a very similar back to A.J. Dillon, who they already have, and is not the best pass catcher. Weapons-wise in the division, they're probably last. They got some good, nice tight ends, but so does Detroit. Minnesota's obviously got T.J. Hockenson. Cole Kmet, very underrated in Chicago. And we know the outside receivers. Green Bay, to me, is worse than their division at that. The Bears, to me, have the best defense in the division. I think Green Bay is probably second. Jair Alexander is still back on Green Bay. The question is going to be for how long. So what I'm saying is everybody is bullish on the Green Bay Packers. Some people even think that they could overtake the Lions in the division this year. And some people have them as their dark horse Super Bowl contenders. What I'm saying, and I will make my official predictions, September 2nd, Labor Day, Season 9 premiere here on Brand's World. I'm not the biggest believer in the Green Bay Packers this year. I think they win somewhere between 8 and 9 games. They compete for the playoffs, but I don't know if I would pay Jordan Love top of the market money. I need to see him do it for another year. Now, in my opinion, the same coin can be made for Tua Tagovailoa. Listen, the Miami Dolphins, they have Raheem Mostert, they have Tyreek Hill, they have Jalen Waddle, they have all these speedsters on the outside. But the bottom line is, before Mike McDaniel came to Miami, Tua Tagovailoa under Brian Flores, and I know some people that have come on Brandon's World and argued with me on this, but in my opinion, Tua Tagovailoa was a bust. Justin Herbert was way better than him in his own draft class, a pick later by the Chargers, and Tua was getting benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick. And to me, he was on his way out of Miami. Then Mike McDaniel came in, stole the Kyle Shanahan thing, did the little cheat motion. They acquired Tyreek Hill from Kansas City, and Tua Tagovailoa ever since then. At points in the season, I don't think anyone could argue. A lot like Jordan Love last year may have looked like the MVP of the week. The problem is when it gets cold outside, when it gets below 40 degrees in November, December, and when you're in that hot sun in Miami, and when you're not even the best quarterback in your division because you got to go up against Josh Allen, and then especially if Aaron Rodgers is healthy this year with the New York Jets, you got to go outside to the cold elements in Buffalo and in New York. And not only that, but in the conference, you got to go up against potentially the likes of Cincinnati, Baltimore, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, just all of these cold weather. Now, obviously, the AFC South, like Indy has a dome, Jacksonville's nice down south, Houston has a dome, but those are still very competitive teams. And so, again, Tua Tagovailoa was good. He's not a great quarterback. I thought Miami should have thought about taking Michael Penix. I know Atlanta obviously did. If he was there, would Miami have considered it? We'll never know. But Mike McDaniel is now strapping himself in to believe that Tua Tagovailoa is his franchise quarterback. And for the record, they lost their best offensive lineman, Robert Hunt, to the Carolina Panthers this year in free agency. And it was just 2 years ago when we were talking about if Tua Tagovailoa should ever play football again due to the concussions he suffered. If Tua Tagovailoa suffers another season-ending injury, a lot like Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, again, health has to do with it here, then if I'm Miami, I may have to consider drafting another quarterback. So from that perspective, I think it's a mistake. Again, I get it. The market tells you what he's worth. But to me, when you watch him play, he's not top dollar. And for Miami, for this investment to be worth it, he has to overcome Josh Allen. He has to overcome Aaron Rodgers. The Dolphins not only have to win the AFC East, in my opinion, but they have to prove that late in the season, they cannot be a speedboat, a speed racer in the NFL. They have to win not only regular season games, but playoff games outside of the warm Florida climate. Like that clip from the Brandon's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandon's World podcast right here on YouTube.